Incredibly helpful. I have a couple of questions. So as I'm reading the packet very quickly, there are two recommendations that essentially this resolution is saying we support the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Panel, and the two that I'm seeing are, one, that Congress dedicate up to $1.3 billion annually in existing revenue from the development of energy and mineral resources on federal lands and waters to wildlife conservation restoration, and two, that the panel is going to examine additional issues related to societal changes on the relevancy of fish and wildlife conservation. It's just those two issues. Those are the two recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Panel, and that's the essence of the resolution.
That's the essence
that
of
we're
it.
asking for the support of.
And I would add that Bill said something very important. When you look at the cost of critters going on the endangered species list, the first spotted owl recovery plan in the 90s, 25 years ago, cost the federal government over $400 million. And when you look at the full environment, the full economic impact was around $44 billion. And so the whole concept that started being laid out and has been supported and adopted by Congress in multiple occasions is the idea that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's the whole model and mindset behind this, is that you can save hundreds of billions by investing about $1 billion over time. And more importantly, you reduce conflict and you get into cooperative conservation efforts rather than combative conservation efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any additional Chief? Bill?
Well, I was going to say this all started in 2014 when the leadership in the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies sent all of us a survey, and it basically was one question: how much money would it take for you to make a difference out there on the landscape? In other words, what would it take, how much money would it take for you to prevent listings? And every state sent in a response to that, and that's where the $1.3 billion came from.
Okay.
And then that's 10% of the oil and, that Mike mentioned where this money comes from. That's 10% of the oil and gas revenue, federal tax revenue, that comes in from drilling offshore. And having two CEOs of oil companies on the Blue Ribbon Panel, it was in all of the scenarios that they created about where this money could come from, and they even considered like an excise tax on outdoor gear that was the model for DJ and PR. But they said, no, we want it to come from oil and gas revenue because we want to actually be able to brag about that we're doing something on the landscape out there instead of it basically going into the general fund.
Thank you. Chris Richardson, would you join us for a moment? Commissioner Ripley made a request for your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Between Mike and Bill, we've gotten all the way around and I think finally gotten to where we would. I'm just going to try to restate exactly what this